things first, welcoming Greg Jennings. Greg has his whole lovely, beautiful family watching. We have to be on our best behavior.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Or they're going to call you guys out. I see you.
Watch your normally salty language, Greg Jennings. We got kids here.
All right, Greg.
Little Ace told me to put on the show. That's what he told me. He said, I want to see it, Mr. Carter. I want to see it.
Greg, let's talk about a guy who makes a ton of money but hasn't matched it with a ton of production and still feels like a pay cut is off the books for him. You know, the dime a dozen story. And oh, yes, we're talking about Dez Bryant. Despite failing to go over 100 yards in any of his 15 games this year, he's not pointing the finger at himself for the Dallas Cowboys missing the playoffs. Take a listen.
I feel like for the most part, I can only do what, you know, I can control. Yeah, in bitter times, hell, you know, frustrating, you know, certain situations, you know, that I couldn't control. But other than that, I believe who I am. I'm a hell of a football player. I know that. I believe that.
They come to you for a pay cut. Are you cool with that?
Whenever I haven't heard no talks about that. But if it come, well, I don't know. Probably not. Hell nah, man. I believe in me.
You got to give him credit for the honesty.
I just like that he wasn't like, he was just kind of going through the standard answers.
Yep, I do whatever my team wants.
To him. Wait, what was just asked of me?
Dollar
Wait,
sign.
taking the money away? Hell
so.
no. Which, like, I don't blame him for that. Go ahead.
Greg, is it time for the Cowboys to move on from Dez Bryant? You have been here many days where we have talked about the inefficiency of Dez Bryant with that Dallas Cowboys offense.
And I have expressed my feelings on Dez Bryant not performing up to par, not doing his part as a #1 guy. When you're asked to be that #1 guy, his years of 2012, 2013, 2014, he was that guy. He played special, and we thought that we were going to see that Dez Bryant going forward. And then he disappeared.
Gone.
I mean, completely disappeared. So, although I will say this, Dez, I'm with you, man. Don't ever say, I'll take a pay cut. Right. Don't ever, right. No, you don't do that. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. If he is to stay with that star on the side of his helmet, if he chooses not to take that pay cut, then yes, they're going to be forced to release him because he's not performing up to par. And they don't have other receivers that can fill that void. So they're going to look for a guy that they can get as a #1 guy to replace Dez Bryant or to push him as a #2 guy.
No chance you think Dez Bryant can come back after the last 3 seasons he's had and look like the Dez of old?
I'm always hopeful. But from what I've seen the last couple seasons, it's not promising. It's just not promising with the performance at quarterback, Dak Prescott. I think he's not enamored with what he sees out of Dez Bryant. He's not excited to get the ball to Dez or force the ball to Dez because Dez doesn't create a lot of separation. He doesn't give him a lot of room for error and erase that margin of error that a young quarterback needs, which is separation, getting open, catching the ball in traffic, doing the little things that a young quarterback can say, you know what, I got to go here because he makes me better. He makes me look a lot better. He makes my confidence grow. Dez Bryant hasn't been able to do that for a young Dak Prescott.
I'm just going to go on record and say that, myself included, every football player I ever met, for the most part, absent of Barry Sanders and Curtis Martin and a couple anomalies, every football I ever met, the greatest of the great, all of them thought they were better than what they actually were, myself included.
Tell me what you
And Dez Bryant has the same reality. Dez Bryant still thinks he's elite, even though the film and everything else would say opposite of that. It's the pride that we have had in us that have allowed us to reach an elite level. There's a reason why there's only a few people that have ever played in the NFL. There's only 18,000. There's only 12,000 that have played more than 4 years. And they have a specialness and a determination about them that allows them to be high achievers. But there's also that reality. Greg Jennings at the end of his career was not the same player. Chris Carter at the end of his career was not the same player. Our problem is we don't know the end. Like, we don't know when it's going to end. The disappointing thing about the wide receivers currently playing in the NFL, after they get 28, we have not seen, besides Larry Fitzgerald, receivers that have gotten better with modern-day technology, The way you can take care of your body and the amount of money that they're spending on players, you would expect that there be a group of receivers that after their 29th birthday, that they would have success in the league. But there's not a lot of them. Larry Fitzgerald. Jordy Nelson, he was 30 last year. He had a 1,000-yard season. He went back this year. Pierre Garçon, he had a 1,000-yard season, 30 last year. He got hurt this year. Edelman, he had a 1,000-yard season, 30 last year. He got hurt. Deshaun Jackson, he got traded, 1,000 yards in Washington last year. He's down in Tampa, not doing so well. So for me, Dez Bryant is part of what the trend that we're seeing. He's just taking it personal, but this is league-wide. There's not a lot of guys that are being successful after their 29th birthday. Larry Fitzgerald is the rare example there in Arizona, still putting up tremendous numbers. So this is not personal. Dez, I know Dez will think, oh, Chris, it's personal. No, it's not personal, all right? You have not been good in a long time.
Dez has no reason to think it's personal for me. So let me just give the numbers on this, because I think some people are going to say, okay, even if Dez isn't elite, he's still the best receiver the Cowboys have. He's still their best option. You can't, I know he's going to cost $16 million next year, but if you cut him, it costs $8 million, so he's definitely worth the $8 million. No, he's not. Since Dak Prescott got in the league, his passer rating, throwing to Dez Bryant, is worse than throwing to any other player on his team. The passer rating to Dez Bryant, Dak to Dez, since 2016, is 84.5. That is the 5th worst quarterback to wide receiver rating in football. The only 4 worse than them, Simeon to Sanders, Simeon to Thomas, Bortles to Lee, and Bortles to Robinson. What do they have in common? 2 trash quarterbacks. So, sorry, guys, but that's what the reality is. So when Dez this year, throughout last year, this year, when they needed Dez to step up, you know what Dak's passer rating was to Dez? 73.1. That is awful. And so, no, at some point, it is not about what you were or what you could be. It's what you have been. And I think that we have 2 years of data on what Dez Bryant has been with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, go ahead.
A question to follow up on. Jerry Jones has been very clear about the fact that he likes Dez Bryant. Does that maybe in a little bit of a pay cut? Are those the only 2 ways that Dez Bryant stays on this team next year?
Yes. Stay on the team, absolutely. It's hard for me to sit here and say Dez Bryant is worth every penny. And I don't like to talk about another man's pocketbook and knock that. So get that real clear. I'm all for players getting what they deserve.
Right.
But when you haven't performed at the level of expectation, it's the inevitable. You talked about Fitzgerald. He's been able to reinvent himself. I talked to him a few weeks back. He's like, I can't do it outside the numbers anymore. But I've taken my game inside to where I'm now glorified tight end, basically. But he is okay with that, and he's excelling at. A lot of players, to Chris's point, haven't been able to come to grips with the fact that, you know what, I'm not the same player that I used to be. Look, Father Time gets us all at some point. It does. And I think with Dez Bryant, and to your points of the stats, he just hasn't made the big plays when it counts. I mean, even when you're looking for Dez Bryant, it's like he's non-present. You can't find him. It's at a point now for me to where I'd said this at the beginning of the season. I'm done with Dez Bryant as far as a football player and his performance level. As a mindset, mentality, you love to have guys who are all football all the time. Love that about him. But at the same time, I need you to take that mentality that you have and show me productivity with it. And when you have started to eliminate the productivity and you have that mentality, I need the productivity at this stage in your career.
We are in a results-oriented business.
Yep.
All right? And his results have not been very, very good. And as far as the money is concerned, you are worth what someone will pay you. All right? If Jerry Jones decides to pay him that money, because it ain't my money to be dishing out. All right, but he hasn't played to the level that you're going to pay someone $10 or $12 million or have a $16 million cap hit.
All right, Greg, stick around. Coming up, a Steelers star goes off on James Harrison. Wait till you hear it. Next on First Things First.
James, let him have it.
Also, Jacksonville, don't